I believe most of the group here is at a point where we recognize that we got to take the ball and run with it ourselves. We can't be waiting around for bigger numbers of people or something like that, and that we've got not only the right but the duty to promote justice by due process of law in response to the criminal accusations that Paul seems courageously volunteering to bring before our court. I think this is a splendid moment of opportunity, and if we stay on track, we might be able to get recognition on a national level for what our court here is doing in response to this issue of current concern.
What makes you think they're going to listen to a man-made court by some citizens?
Because I comprehend the depths and breadths of the legal lawful chessboard upon which this spiritual battle is unfolding. With all due respect, Brother Michael, I don't think you got real clarity on the nature of the lawful authority that's in the grassroots people's hands here.
Well, I do believe there's a possibility, but I think we stand a greater chance of using the existing courts and assembling a petition and filing a complaint against their lack of communication. I don't think that us creating our own court is going to be heard. I just don't see it. I haven't seen it in the past. I've seen people go to jail for attempting it.
That's a separate issue, Michael. You're raising multiple issues. You know, you're...
Hey, Charles.
Paul, please.
Mike, tell you what.
Yes, sir.
I am going to state right here, right now, that there is a great probability that you are absolutely correct in that this could be an enormous exercise in futility. However, I would ask you to consider this. Suppose that this process goes forward. Suppose that I do file with your court a criminal accusation, or at least a tort accusation, against a grand jury. And let's suppose that the tribunal who hears that evidence renders a decision. And that decision is a well thought out and cited decision addressing the issues raised. I would ask you to consider that if that decision were publicized across the nation, I think you would find a great number of people becoming aware of the true nature they are. And I think, I don't know this, but I think that there could be a popular uprising against the status quo that does exist right now.
I believe that, but I believe we would have a greater chance at achieving that in the existing courts than creating our own.
I concur if we could get to a grand jury. But you can see, I don't know if y'all are all aware of this or not, but after that letter from our attorney got to the United States Attorney's hands, it wasn't but a couple of weeks, and all of a sudden he has tendered his resignation as an assistant United States attorney for the Northern District of Georgia for unexpected circumstances. That's all he said. Now, I'm not saying that our petition to the grand jury or that Mr. Fine's letter to B.J. Pack the nexus of his leaving office, but one must consider what else was there to explain his leaving his office. But anyway, I do not counsel at all that we abandon our present course of conduct in the statutory, in the constitutional courts. I do not counsel that at all. But I am saying that...
And I would agree.
But I would say that if this effort were to come forward and be publicized, then God only knows when somebody reading about this case from a common law court of inquiry might get summoned to serve as a grand juror on a federal or a state court. And when they get there, say, hey, folks, get your head out of your fanny. We got a problem. And then all of a sudden, you may have 3 or 4 or 5, maybe 10 dozen grand juries around the country, all of a sudden taking a long, hard look at the political status quo.
All right. If I might, Paul, are you?
I yield.
Thank you. I'd like to point out that, point of clarification, Paul, again, you seem fixated on the crimes of the first grand jury, bringing that before our court. I was under the impression that we were communicating about the agenda item issue of the voter fraud, that there's crimes there. I thought you indicated that you were prepared to bring that as a complaint before our court also. Am I miscomprehending what?
No, actually, I'm in my mind right now. I'm thinking doing both.
Very good. I was thinking we can do that too. Yeah, Michael may be correct. We may just splat like a bug against a windshield in regard to all this, but we got to do something, and this is something that we can do. And further, we're following due process of law in more quick and efficient manners than the de facto municipal courts do. The lawyers that see what we're doing will have light bulbs go off in their head, and they'll immediately start questioning, well, what's the foundation of all of this? And once people realize that we got lawful foundation to form our own courts and to adjudicate nationally significant issues like this, then it's game on. Then we've got the power. Or at least it's a moving ball in the court that we can affect. Right now, I'm immensely troubled by Michael's continuing proposition that we need to rely on the de facto federal courts in the name of God. I think they've proven that that's where we splat like bugs on the windshield. We never get through those. At least here, we've got a fighting chance, and we can go for the minds and hearts of the people here directly through our own YouTube videos and things like this. And at that point, we are positioned solid under the 7th Amendment. We will produce a fact tried by a jury that basically cuts through all the federal municipal gobbledygook. If you can empower us with the criminal complaints that you're describing here, Paul, we'll be lined up for an extremely powerful legal position that can produce the profound social changes that I think we're all hoping for here. I yield.